What's up, everyone? Mark here, and with Thanksgiving behind us and Christmas and the December holidays squarely in our sights, it is important to remember that this is a time of year of giving and of being thankful. And it is in that spirit that there is a little something that I like to do every year, this time of year in particular, to help the homeless in my community. It's just a small thing. It's actually great for families to do together. It works great for groups, scouting organizations, and church groups, particularly if you can get the items donated that you need to put them together. But before we talk about this, I just wanted to thank you all again so much for your continued support of the channel and for watching these videos. Please give them a thumbs up and please subscribe if you have not already. Click the red button down below or the watermark in the corner, and when you do, make sure you hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time I have a new video out. Let's go take a look at this a little more closely so I can explain what it is and we can talk about how we're going to make them. Okay, so what is this? This is something I call a care pack. Care pack is a shortened way of saying care package, and this is essentially a shortened or small care package. There's stuff in here to help a person for a day, make them feel a little more human for a day. I keep several of these in my car, and in the wintertime I try to keep them inside or bring a couple with me that I keep by the door, just because the water will freeze. But I hand these out instead of money when I see a homeless person panhandling by the side of the road. Now, I don't want to get into a conversation here about panhandling, whether it's good or bad, whether it's safe, whether it's unsafe. As far as I'm concerned, when I see someone who could use help and they are in a situation where they're not creating a safety issue for themselves or other drivers, I'm more than willing to help. And it's not that people don't need money, but there's stuff in here that people can really use now. And every time I've handed one of these out, the person I've handed it to has lit up. I think there was maybe one time where someone kind of pushed back and said no thanks. And, you can make all kinds of assumptions, and I don't want to discourage anyone from giving money to panhandlers either, because that is a legitimate need. That one person who refused, it's easy to think, oh, well, they're just looking for money to buy booze or something like that. The reality is they just didn't need it. That's it. It's as simple as that. They didn't need it. I don't know their story. I don't know their scenario. For all I know, they have warmth and shelter and water and food, and they don't need these things, and they need money. They're panhandling for money because they need to buy medicine for their child. And, again, I just don't know. Is it that? Who knows? But is it that they need money for booze? Who knows? You can't make that kind of assumption. So, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And if someone, doesn't want help, then that is fine. So the first version of this that I created several years ago, and of course I'm sure that I'm not the first person to have come up with this idea. I'm just kind of expressing it now. But the first version I had of this was just a bottle of water, the hot hands, nutrition bar, and it was just kind of held together with some tape. And a friend of mine, my friend Tom actually, when he saw it, he said something to the effect of, add a pair of socks and this is perfect. When you're cold and wet and miserable, there is nothing more humanizing than a pair of warm, dry socks. That is absolutely true. So from then on, I've included a pair of socks in here too. And again, I've said people seem to love these when I hand them out. In the particularly cold months of the winter, I will intentionally go out, on a Sunday morning when I'm going out to get my coffee. I'll shoot up to Providence and I'll kind of do a little once around the, the collector roads around the highway, where everyone seems to post up. And I'll easily hand out, 6 or so of these things, just in one quick little trip and head back home and, stock back up for next time. Outside of that, it's rare that I run into someone in my travels, but if I do, I have them with me. And like I said, people are almost always appreciative. So the original version of this also didn't have the plastic bag. Like I said, it was just taped up. I later sort of added the bag, kind of seeing what others were doing. My Uncle John in Texas, for example, because this varies by climate, right? He gives out bags that have a couple of bottles of water and a couple of, generic brand, chewy chocolate chip granola bars. It's energy and it's hydration. And in a warmer climate, more hydration is needed. So it makes sense that there would be water in there. and you really want to kind of adapt it. And I started to, think maybe a plastic bag would be a good idea because then it keeps it clean when it's in my car. And the bag itself is useful, and even the elastic that holds it closed is useful. When you're living outside and you really don't have anything, everything that you're given, you can find a use for. I mean, it may sound silly, but it could waterproof a hat. I tend to give them out in pairs, a lot when, like I said, when the weather is colder and, the situation is a little more dire. They could be boot liners or shoe liners to keep the socks that you're giving them dry. Because what good is a warm, dry pair of socks if the boots or shoes that you have are soaked through and through? So there are little considerations like that. But, you can spend a lot putting these together, or you can spend a little putting these together. I put some links down in the description for where you can get some of this stuff. My original iteration of this was kind of done with all clearance things. It was like a 12-pack of water where the shrink wrap had broken. It was all taped up, so it was next to nothing. I think it was Odwalla bars that I used in that first one. They were on clearance because it was a discontinued flavor. I got the Hot Hands multi-pack discounted at Walmart on clearance. I think it was a discontinued item. Clearance socks. Everything was just really, really cheap, and I think that first batch went together for under $1 a piece. These, they cost about $3 a piece. Would you be willing to give a homeless person $1 or few? Would you be willing to give them something of value that they can use, something real, something tangible, that has that same monetary value if it were in this form instead of money? Again, nothing against, giving money to panhandlers or homeless people. But I feel like there are a lot of people who, are averse to the idea of giving money. And the notion of giving something that might actually have a use in this way, I would like to think this might be the sort of thing that gets more people to do it. And again, this is great for groups, especially if you can get the items donated. But if you shop around, you can do this pretty inexpensively, even just yourself. So really, I'm just going to show you how I put one of these together myself. I generally make them about a dozen at a time, if not 24, depending on how many bottles of water I get. It ends up being kind of a hot dogs and hot dog buns thing, where, the numbers don't always line up, but, you have some extra stuff anyway. I eat Cliff Bars myself. So, I buy these in 18 packs, so I have them all the time. I can kind of make this a little bit cheaper in that way. But, you can do this in any way you want. But this is just sort of the method that I have found works for me over the years and is easiest to do. So I just take the bag, I put these socks in first so that they kind of line the bottom. I take the water and I wrap the Hot Hands around it, and I drop that in so that the Hot Hands is visible on one side. And I drop in the Cliff Bar on the opposite side of the bag. So you can see the Hot Hands here and the Cliff Bar here, and the socks on the bottom. And the reason I do that is so that you can easily sort of see all what's in here. When you're handing someone something, it's sort of an unfamiliar, like, what's going on here? What's this thing you're handing me? It can be confusing. But if it's plainly visible what's in there, they can see, oh, it's Hot Hands. Oh, it's water. Oh, it's chocolate chip. It's a nutrition bar, and there's, cloth. It must, some socks. They can make out what's in here right away. And it's not confusing, and they tend to be happy. And you don't need to do this step, but I like to wrap it with an elastic just to kind of bind it. And it helps keep it all together. And as I said, I make these a dozen or two at a time, and I'll keep 6 or so in my car at a time. And as I said, it's nice even to go out, on a intentional specific trip just to hand some of these out sometimes in the winter, because everybody could use a little hand now and then. Okay, so we'll go through that one more time. I take the bag. Socks at the bottom of the bag. Bottle of water. Hot Hands. Hot Hands facing one side. Cliff Bar. Down the bag on the opposite side. Hot hands, Cliff Bar. I seal it almost all the way and then squeeze out as much of the air as possible. Close it up and bind it up with a rubber band. And the rubber bands I use are non-rubber, non-latex rubber bands. That's why they're blue like this. But I find those deteriorate less, or they're less prone to that problem where the rubber gets kind of gummy and gooey and you know, crackly and falls apart when it's stretched for too long. So these, you know, these last a good long while. Guys, that's really it. This is such a simple project. It's so inexpensive. It can be so inexpensive. I hope it's something that you'll try with your family or your group. And that's it. We'll see you in the next one. Hey, boss.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself, okay? Stay warm. Each one's a bottle of water, a nutrition bar, a pair of socks, and a pair of hand warmers. My name's Mark, by the way. Nice to meet you. What's your name?
Kathy.
Kathy. I guess if there's one thing that you wish people understood when they saw a homeless person.
I wish people understood the fact that some of us are not out here for drugs, alcohol. I'm really in need, so that I gotta stand out here to support, you know, my children's food, clothing, everything. It's hard, but I believe in God and He has a plan for me.